welcome to the next video in our What's Stopping You series. So today we're going to be looking at what is stopping you from changing your marketing platforms. We all can be creatures of habit, and actually the fact of changing platforms can seem pretty daunting. It might feel easier and safer to stick with the platform that you've got, but you need to think, are you actually reaching those marketing goals? Are you hitting your marketing targets? And if not, then maybe it's time to review the platforms that you have. But there may be reasons that might be stopping you changing platforms. So we're going to have a chat today about what some of those blockers might be, and then hopefully reassure you that actually it's not as time consuming or as disruptive as you may think. And so joining me today for this conversation, I have Bobbie and Rich. Now, Bobbie is our onboarding project manager here at RedEye, so essentially helps our new clients make sure they've got a seamless transition from what they're currently using over to the RedEye platform. And Rich, our head of integrations and onboarding, looks at maybe what integrations can help, again, make it a more seamless process for a client and their data to move across. And then also just the RedEye process overall, how it can be really made easier for a client to change platforms. So the perfect people to speak about this topic around changing platforms today. So let's then think about, first off, sort of high level, the business. So what sort of triggers might prompt a business overall then to think about considering to change platforms?
Yeah, it's usually kind of wanting to take that next step up in their marketing campaigns, I'd say. So as you said in the introduction, they may be quite comfortable with what they're doing at the moment. They find it easy to just kind of carry on day to day. Whereas really they need to be taking that next step up to hit those extra targets, make more personalized campaigns. So that's where, they may be looking to move to a new platform with extra support, getting those extra recommendations as well. So that tends to be the kind of trigger point for moving from one to another. And so,
Yeah, just kind of echoing what Rich says, really. I think clients are now looking beyond just the tech and looking at what strategic support looks like from different providers, whether that be creative support, campaign support, ideas generation. What else can companies provide other than just the tech? Do they have a dedicated account management team, an onboarding team? Are there real people sat behind the phone ready to assist them, or is it just a ticketing system? And I think, people are looking for that extra additional support now, especially if they've not got that in-house. So I think that's something that obviously we offer, and that's what clients are looking for.
Yeah, so sometimes it's a mix of actually, where the business is, they might not be growing, they might be a bit stagnant, they might not be hitting their overall objectives, a little bit of that they need to move on to the next level, but also then thinking about actually it's the tech and the support, how can I get more from what I'm spending probably with a provider. So then if we think about the marketer themselves then, so, they might be a bit hesitant about changing platforms and moving to something completely new. So what would we say, what advice would we give those?
I think, people just get very comfortable with whatever it is that they're used to, just in everyday life in general. So I think moving to a new platform is obviously very scary. However, I don't think it needs to be. I think it needs to be looked at as an opportunity. I think if you're asking yourself the question of, would I be getting more value for money from another provider? Can this provider provide something I'm not currently getting? If you are asking yourselves those questions, then to me, that would be an indication to move. Like, you deserve to get everything you possibly can out of a provider and more. And I think, change might be a bit scary, but it's essentially an opportunity to kind of level up. So, I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, totally. That's where the training comes in as well, isn't it? So I can imagine it definitely can be daunting to move from one to another, and you have a new shiny platform but not really know how to get stuck into the detail of it. So having that extra level of support, someone on the end of the phone literally is really important, I think, and helps reassure quite a lot.
Yeah, and I think then also one of the blockers that people may think is that it's quite time consuming. I've got all data and all campaigns all set up here and going through that whole process of moving. So if that was a blocker that somebody thought of, what would you say to that?
I would say definitely from our point of view and our onboarding team and our process is the communication, just making sure that that's consistent and honest and open. We have a scoping call initially with any new clients, where we literally from start to finish go through everything. We ask lots of questions. The client has a lot of questions. And that call is essentially to, okay, this is our go live date. These are the steps from both sides that we need to get there. These are the kind of the milestones that we're going to put in. And it's also kind of what level of communication the client wants. We're very much guided by our clients, so we can literally be on the end of the phone every day. We can set up a morning call, or it can be a once a week call, whatever they need. I think as long as the communication is there on both sides for reassurance and for updates and things, then yeah, it doesn't need to be as kind of time consuming as people may think. Yeah, just keep that communication open, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. We save quite a lot of time from a process point of view that I'm quite involved in, is trying to run phases in parallel as well. So, we can be working on more technical bits internally at RedEye, getting some of the tech set up, the platform built and ready. But at the same time, a client's new account manager could be talking with the client about creatives, master templates, segment logic, so that effectively once the tech bit is done, everything can just be uploaded and set live really quickly from there. So it's less linear in that sense, and you see quite a lot of time saved from that as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think time saving is a really, really big thing as well from the business point of view, because they've made this investment and they need to sort of get time to value back pretty quick and get the sort of ROI on what they're spending, kind of get those campaigns and things sent out. So that's a really important factor as well for a business, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And it, as Bobbie mentioned, it goes back to that initial scoping call and making sure that everyone is aligned on a kind of go live date. So as we get closer to that go live date, all of the technical setup has been done. But then it's really a case of winding down a client's previous platform and campaigns. On the same day, we can be loading data, making sure that everything is working technically within the new platform. And then literally the same day or the following day, the new campaigns can begin. So, the engaged customers that are contributing revenue at the end of the day, they're not going to see any kind of disruption in the campaigns that they receive. If anything, they should just see that benefit straight away of more personalization, the campaign's feeling more relevant to them. So there shouldn't be any kind of time lost on that.
Yeah, because that's again another factor as well. People might be thinking, well, actually, if I'm changing platforms, I've got all these campaigns set up. Actually, will my customers see a disruption? Will there be a stop in campaigns? Will I go weeks without having any campaigns sent out? Yeah. But obviously, as long as everything's all set up in parallel, in at the same time, is that the best way to approach it?
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we are here to manage as well. Any kind of onboarding for any new platform really should be focusing on that as the end goal. With having a set go live date and not deviating that from that. So that's what we are here to kind of manage day to day.
It's that communication again, isn't it? Yeah. Just the communication of priorities. And we always say their go live date or their priorities then become ours, because we're the extension of their team for the time that they're with us. And that moves into the account management team as well. They become another extension of the team. So whatever that go live date is, and whenever they need to get those campaigns live, they become kind of our goals as well. So yeah.
And I think becoming an extension of the marketing team, that's really nice for somebody to think of and hear. So they're not just kind of chucked in it, and then changing platforms is not just the tech to the tech. Actually, sometimes it's a partnership that you're sort of building as well.
100%, yeah.
So then another big blocker that lots of marketers worry about with changing platforms is data. So, they can have a lot of data in one platform, or it might be siloed, it might be unorganized. So that actually can be sometimes a worry to move. So what sort of, advice would you give in that scenario?
Yeah, definitely. It's a really common problem that a lot of new clients may have, is that they'll have data from things like websites, social media, in-store data capture that don't really talk to each other. So it's a challenge that we relish, to be honest. We'll sit down with a new client and start to map out those data flows and see what's available, how do we want to load it into a new platform, where should it go, are things like marketing permissions obviously really crucial. Making sure that they're kind of compliant as well. So it all starts with that initial conversation really, and mapping out those flows. So that's probably the main advice, is to kind of take our recommendations and let us work through it with you on anything.
And then I suppose that mapping point of view as well, some people might be worried, being like, oh, well, it sounds really, really complex and complicated, where actually it can be, quite standardized, or it can be quite custom. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Like we have our kind of standard approach that we would take for all clients as a kind of basic, starting ground. If we need to build on that and add in extra data feeds and APIs and stuff like that, we can do. But it can all start with like a pretty basic initial setup. Yeah. And that can always be built on in the future as well. There's nothing wrong with starting with a kind of phase one approach, and then over, you know, the next year or so, we build it with the client moving forward. So
but getting that right is obviously definitely super important, because your data is your foundation to all of your personalization, isn't it? So then if we think about the end user, the sort of the individual marketer, you know, they might be worried, okay, well, I don't want to change platforms because I know how to use this current platform, whereas this new platform, you know, it's got all these amazing features and functionality, but actually, you know, I don't know what or how to use it. So, you know, how can we help marketers there?
Take advantage of the training that's available, I would say, whether that's the online help centre and videos and screen shares, or picking up the phone and calling your account manager and doing a screen share and having a full training session. But beyond all that, I would just say practice. Practice makes perfect. I used to say to all my clients that unless you hit the big red send button, don't do that. But there's nothing that you can break. There's nothing that can go wrong, essentially. There's always, you know, a step before you're hitting send. So have a play around, look at all these new cool advanced features that you've got, and really take advantage of the tool. But yeah, don't be too scared. Just practice and pick up the phone if you need some support.
And be inquisitive. Or think about, what's this new feature, this functionality? Can I use it? Should I ask my account manager around it? You know?
Definitely. I think the thing that people need to remember is that these platforms are actually made to be really user-friendly. They're not made to trip anybody up. So yeah, you know, if you've used one platform, I'm sure that you can use any platform really with a bit of guidance from the team as well. So
yeah, definitely. So I suppose then as the final question then, if a marketer's sitting there and they, you know, they think it's easier to stick with what they've got, the platform they've got, but they know that their campaigns aren't, you know, reaching their targets and you know, they know that they kind of need to improve, what would be your final piece of advice for them?
I would say don't think too much about the end goal or what the end looks like, the end solution, because when you start thinking about, oh my God, all my data, my campaigns, like this and that, don't think about that just yet. If you're asking yourself the question of, oh, my current tool isn't quite working for me, then just start to have a look at what else is out there. Shortlist your top few. There might just be one that really intrigues you, and get on the phone with that platform and request a demo, give them a call, maybe bring in some other stakeholders that you work with, that you, especially if you're going to need buy-in from those people to migrate to a new tool, because you're not signing anything at this point. You're not kind of signing on the dotted line. You're not committing to anything. It's just a conversation, and take it step by step. Have a phone call, have a demo, speak to someone, and just see how it goes. And actually, you'll probably see, as you speak to more and more people, hopefully the process actually will seem quite easy. So do a bit of window shopping is what I would say.
Okay.
I think a key bit of advice, I guess, when you've made that decision as well, is to just make sure that everyone internally within your business is aligned on what you're wanting to get out of this new platform. You know, why are we bringing them on board? What data are we going to be sending? What kind of campaigns do we want to be running in the future? So it just helps to start the project with everyone aligned. Everyone knows what we're trying to do, basically, which is gold dust for us. So.
Yeah. And one of the things I would say to people as well is, you know, check out the onboarding teams. You know, make sure they've got somebody so dedicated and, you know, and thoughtful as you guys. So,
thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining me in this conversation today. Hopefully people listening in have realised that actually maybe changing their marketing technology platform isn't so scary and daunting, and actually it's a lot easier than they thought.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you.